Welcome back to Sports Day Tribune, your go-to channel for all things sports. I'm Noah, and today we've got some exciting Olympic basketball action to break down. We'll be diving into Team USA's dominant performance against Australia in the women's basketball semifinals. But stick around till the end, because we've got some juicy news about A'ja Wilson that you won't want to miss. Let's jump right in. The stage was set for an epic showdown in Paris, as Team USA faced off against Australia in the first women's basketball semifinal of the 2024 Olympics. From the opening tip, it was clear that the Americans came to play, and they weren't about to let anyone stand in their way of another gold medal. Right out of the gates, Team USA flexed their muscles on both ends of the court. A'ja Wilson, the defensive anchor for the squad, made her presence felt early with a couple of nasty blocks that had the Aussies thinking twice about driving to the hoop. Meanwhile, Jackie Young was cooking on the offensive end, getting buckets and setting the tone for what would be a long day for the Australian defense. Now, you might think that Australia, being a basketball powerhouse in their own right, would have come out swinging. But let me tell you, they looked like they were stuck in quicksand, trying to generate any offense against that suffocating USA defense. Before they knew it, they were staring down the barrel of a double-digit deficit, and we weren't even halfway through the first quarter. But credit where credit's due, the Aussies didn't roll over and die. They managed to weather the storm and actually closed out the first quarter strong, cutting the lead down to just 4 points. For a moment there, it looked like we might have ourselves a real nail-biter on our hands. Enter the second quarter, and that's when Team USA decided to remind everyone why they're the most feared basketball team on the planet. It was like watching a masterclass in offensive execution. Jewel Lloyd and Sabrina Ionescu started raining threes like it was going out of style. The USA lead had ballooned to 14 points. Now, I've seen my fair share of basketball games, but the way Team USA was locking down on defense in that second quarter was something else. It was like watching a boa constrictor slowly squeeze the life out of its prey. The Aussies just couldn't buy a bucket, and their frustration was palpable. By the time the halftime buzzer sounded, Team USA had outscored Australia 25-11 in the quarter, and was sitting pretty with an 18-point lead. You know, there's something to be said about the mental toughness it takes to play against Team USA. It's not just the physical talent you're up against. It's the constant pressure, the knowledge that any mistake you make will be punished. And let me tell you, Australia was feeling every bit of that pressure as they trudged into the locker room at halftime. Now, if you're Australia, you're probably thinking, okay, we've had a rough first half, but we can turn this around. We've got 20 minutes to make something happen. But Wilson had other plans. She came out of the break like a woman possessed, knocking down a couple of quick buckets and pushing her point total into double figures. Just like that, the USA lead swelled to 22, and you could practically see the air being sucked out of the Australian team. But wait, there's more. Breanna Stewart, who had a somewhat quiet first half, decided it was time to join the party. She flipped a switch and started hitting shots from all over the court. By the end of the third quarter, she was leading all scorers with 16 points on 50% shooting. It was like watching a superstar remember they're a superstar, and let me tell you, it was a thing of beauty. Now, I've got to give props to the Aussies. They never stopped fighting, never stopped trying to claw their way back into the game. But it was like trying to climb a mountain that kept getting taller. Every time they'd string together a couple of good possessions, Team USA would answer with a run of their own. As we headed into the fourth quarter, the scoreboard read 66-40 in favor of the Americans, and you could feel the inevitability setting in. But here's the thing about great teams: they don't let up, even when the game is essentially over. Team USA kept their foot on the gas, with their bench players coming in and showing why this team is so scary deep. Kalia Cooper, in particular, was a spark plug off the bench, dropping 11 points on 4 for 9 shooting, and proving that there's no such thing as garbage time when you're wearing the red, white, and blue. As the final minutes ticked away, you couldn't help but marvel at the machine-like efficiency of this USA team. 4 players in double figures, contributions up and down the roster, and a final score of 85-64 that honestly could have been even more lopsided if they'd really wanted to pour it on. Let's break down some of the standout performances, shall we? Brianna Stewart led all scorers with 16 points, adding 6 rebounds and a steal to her stat line. Jackie Young was right behind her with 14 points and 5 rebounds, shooting a crisp 6 for 8 from the field. Wilson, despite a slow start offensively, finished with a rock-solid 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 blocks. And how about Kalia Cooper coming off the bench with 11 points and 6 rebounds? Talk about depth. On the Australian side, Tess Madgen put up a valiant effort with 10 points and 12 rebounds, while Isabel Borlassi chipped in 11 points. But when your leading scorer only has 10 points against Team USA, you know it's been a tough day at the office. Now, I could sit here and rattle off stats all day, but what really stood out to me was the way Team USA imposed their will on this game. They out-rebounded Australia 42-35, dished out 21 assists to Australia's 9, and perhaps most impressively, blocked 8 shots while only getting one of their own attempts rejected. That's the kind of dominance that makes you wonder if anyone can seriously challenge this team. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. As impressive as this win was, Team USA knows the job isn't finished. They've punched their ticket to the gold medal game, but there's still one more mountain to climb before they can add another gold to their collection. You know, watching this USA team play, it's hard not to think about their legacy. We're witnessing something truly special here, a dynasty that spans decades. The names on the back of the jerseys may change, but the results remain the same. It's a testament to the depth of talent in women's basketball in the United States, and the culture of excellence that's been built over years of dominance. As we look ahead to the gold medal game, you've got to wonder what's going through the minds of the other teams. Is there a game plan out there that can slow down this juggernaut? Or are we simply watching a team that's operating on a different level than the rest of the world? One thing's for sure, whoever faces Team USA in the final is going to have their work cut out for them. This is a team that seems to be peaking at just the right time. A group of superstars who've bought into a common goal and are playing some of the best basketball of their lives. But before we start engraving those gold medals, let's take a moment to appreciate the journey. This team has faced adversity, dealt with the pressure of sky-high expectations, and come out the other side looking stronger than ever. It's a reminder that even for the most talented athletes in the world, success at the highest level is never guaranteed. It takes hard work, dedication, and a little bit of that Olympic magic. As we wrap up our coverage of this semi-final clash, I can't help but feel a sense of anticipation for what's to come. The gold medal game promises to be a spectacle, a showcase of the very best that women's basketball has to offer. And you can bet that Team USA will be ready to add another chapter to their storied Olympic legacy. Now, moving on to the next news we have today, we're zeroing in on one of Team USA's brightest stars, A'ja Wilson. Let's break down her performance against Australia and dive into some interesting developments off the court. Wilson has been nothing short of phenomenal throughout this Olympic tournament. Her combination of efficient post play and intimidating defense has been a cornerstone of Team USA's success. Coming into the semifinal against Australia, Wilson was riding high off a dominant double-double performance against Nigeria, where she put up 20 points on a blistering 9 of 11 shooting, along with 11 rebounds. So, how did she fare against the Aussies? Well, let me paint you a picture. In Team USA's 85-64 victory, Wilson put up a stat line that might not jump off the page at first glance, but trust me, it was impactful. She finished with 10 points on 5 of 7 shooting, grabbed 8 rebounds, and swatted away 4 shots. Now, you might be thinking, Noah, that doesn't sound like a typical Wilson game. And you'd be right, but that's what makes it so impressive. See, that's the beauty of Wilson's game. She doesn't need to dominate the scoring column to leave her mark on a game. Her presence alone alters the entire complexion of the match. Those 4 blocks? They don't just represent 4 denied shots. They represent countless altered attempts, second-guessed drives, and a general reluctance from the Australian team to attack the paint. It's the kind of impact that doesn't always show up in the box score, but is felt acutely by anyone on the court. Let's break down her game a bit, shall we? In the first half, Wilson was relatively quiet on the offensive end. It wasn't until the 6:45 mark that she got her first bucket, draining a smooth mid-range jumper that pushed Team USA's lead to 16. Now some players might get frustrated with a slow start, but not Aija. She kept her cool, stayed engaged, and waited for her opportunities. Her patience paid off later in the quarter when she converted on a fast break layup with 3:55 left on the clock. That's the kind of play that energizes a team and demoralizes an opponent. It's not just about the 2 points. It's about showing that even when the set offense isn't clicking, you can still make things happen. The second half is where we really saw Wilson assert herself. At the 8:17 mark of the third quarter, she made a nice cut to the basket and finished off a beautiful dime from her Las Vegas Aces teammate, Jackie Young. That bucket seemed to open the floodgates, and before long, Wilson had pushed her point total into double digits. Now, here's where things get interesting. With Team USA firmly in control, the coaching staff made the decision to give their starters some rest. That meant Wilson's night was done earlier than usual. But here's the thing. The fact that she could have such a significant impact on the game in limited minutes speaks volumes about her efficiency and overall value to this team. You see, Wilson isn't just a great player. She's a smart player. She understands that on a team loaded with as much talent as Team USA, sometimes the best thing you can do is play your role to perfection. Whether that means being a defensive anchor, cleaning up the glass, or providing timely buckets, Wilson does whatever it takes to secure the win. But let's zoom out for a second and talk about what this performance means in the broader context of the tournament. Team USA is now headed to the gold medal game with a chance to win their 8th consecutive Olympic gold. That's not just impressive, it's downright historic. And players like Aija Wilson are a big reason why this dynasty has been able to sustain its success for so long. You know, it's easy to look at a stat line and make judgments, but the true value of a player like Wilson goes far beyond the numbers. It's about the energy she brings to the court, the way she elevates her teammates' play, and the fear she instills in opponents. When Wilson steps on the court, everyone, teammates and opponents alike, knows that they're in the presence of greatness. But here's where our story takes an interesting turn. You see, it's not just Wilson's on-court performance that's been making waves in this Olympic tournament. There's been some chatter about an interesting interaction she had with one of the Olympic officials during a group play game against Belgium. Apparently, one of the officials approached Wilson and suggested that she needed to get her emotions in check. Now, if you know anything about Wilson, you know that her passionate play is a big part of what makes her such a force on the court. So, naturally, this advice didn't sit well with her. In Wilson's own words, "I need to get my emotions in check," he said, and I think that just heightened my emotions even more, because I'm like, how are you going to tell me at my job that I can't show emotion, passion? Can we talk about this for a second? Because this is a big deal. We're talking about one of the best basketball players in the world being told to tone down her emotions during the biggest tournament of her life. It's not just puzzling, it's downright problematic. Wilson's response to this situation tells you everything you need to know about her character and her approach to the game. She didn't let it rattle her. Instead, she doubled down on being herself. As she put it, "So I keep my cool. I continued being me. I keep my cool by understanding who I am and who I have around me, and don't look back and just keep going." That right there is the mindset of a champion. It's about staying true to yourself, understanding your value, and not letting anyone, not even an official, dictate how you should express your passion for the game. You see, Wilson isn't just a great basketball player, she's a leader. She understands that her energy, her passion, and yes, her emotions are contagious. When she gets fired up, it lifts the entire team. When she celebrates a big play, it energizes the crowd. That's not something to be toned down, it's something to be celebrated. This incident raises some interesting questions about how we view emotion in sports, particularly when it comes to women athletes. There's often a double standard at play, where men are praised for their passionate displays while women are told to keep things in check. But athletes like Aija Wilson are challenging these norms, showing that passion and professionalism aren't mutually exclusive. Let's be clear about something. Wilson's emotional play isn't a liability, it's an asset. It's part of what makes her one of the most dominant and exciting players to watch in the world. Her ability to play with fire while maintaining her composure is a skill in itself, one that's been honed through years of competition at the highest levels.